What you have across the top here is a basic profit chain, and we start from the right and work our way back. Virtually every organization is looking to be successful. So whether you measure it in profit or growth or units or dollars or whatever, this is what most organizations are striving for. And in order to reach this goal, what you've got to have is engaged customers. I would say that these are customers who essentially do business with you on purpose. In other words, it's not just people who live in the neighborhood or work nearby or whatever. They came to you on purpose. And the only way that you really get engaged customers is if you have engaged employees who have connected with these customers. Now, I'm going to swing back around to that as we get to the end of it, but let's talk about these engaged customers. And I would tell you that customers are either engaged, or if you'd rather, we can say committed or not committed. Some customers, it makes no difference what you do. This group over here, the not committed group, and it doesn't really matter what you do. You're never really going to connect with them. Some research indicates that it might be as many as 16%, probably a little less than that. So a little less than 1 out of 6, no matter what you do. Nonetheless, the goal is to deal with our customers in such a way and work with them in such a way that we can get them committed or get them engaged with us. And in order to do that, there are two things that we need to focus on. They are one, the transaction, and two, the interaction. As far as the transaction, what I'm really talking about is the process that we take our customers through. If I come in to buy a car, for example, I have no way of knowing what the process is. I know there's a process you have to take me through. I know there's paperwork that I have to sign, contracts, other things, etc. But as a customer, I don't know what it is. And frankly, I don't care because I expect that you will know and that you'll walk me through the transaction without a hitch. And when you do, you don't get any sort of special dispensation from me, no extra brownie points, so to speak. I expect you to do the transaction perfectly. When you do it badly, think about what it cost you. For example, let's say I buy a new car and I love the car, I love the deal, I love my salesperson, I love everything about it until, day after tomorrow. And I get a call from you that says, "Hey, Mr. Wolf, you need to come back to the store and sign the contract again." And I say, "Why?" And you say, "Well, because we transposed a couple of numbers in the VIN, so the contract is invalid. You'll need to come back and sign a new one." Well, pretty much immediately I'm thinking, okay, if you screwed that up, what else is wrong? And secondly, why am I being inconvenienced? I didn't do anything wrong. I did exactly what you told me to do when you told me to do it. And yet I'm the one that's being inconvenienced. See, the transaction is crucial. And we sometimes drop the ball here because, after all, this is something we do fairly regularly. Need to pay a special attention to it to make sure that we don't have any problems and we get it right every time with every customer. On the other hand, if we're really looking to commit customers, it's all about the interaction, how we connect with them on a human level. And I would tell you there's two pieces to this. There is the personal piece and the personable piece. Let's start with being personable. I would tell you that most people who provide service have been taught to be personable. They say please, they say thank you, have a nice day, and they might even mean it. But the likelihood is pretty good that you, like most of us, have gotten poor service at some point with somebody who is eminently personable. See, that's not enough. If you really want to connect with your customers, you really want to build a better relationship with them, it's all about being personal. And I'm not talking about being creepy. I'm talking about the kind of personal when you meet somebody and you start to get to know them a little bit. I'll give you a quick example of this. I was in a restaurant not long ago. I'd had one of those days that started really early in the morning, about 3:45. I left home. I'd driven about 100 miles, 150 before I ever got to where it was I had to work. I worked all day, and it was one of those days that by lunchtime you're thinking, I think I've been working 10 hours already, and geez, the day's only half over. So at any rate, I got to the end of the day. I was just beat. Things hadn't gone perfectly. I checked into a hotel, going to be out of town overnight. Checked into a hotel, decided to go across the street to a restaurant to get a bite to eat. So I walk across to the restaurant. I ask for a table. They don't really have anything ready quite yet, but I look into the bar and they've got one of those big round kind of barrel chairs, the ones with the big round arms, very plush and comfortable looking. So I decide I'll go in there. So I walk in and I sit down, just sort of throw myself into the chair. The waitress comes up and identifies herself, and she looks at me and smiles and says, "So how's your day going?" And I said, "I got to tell you the truth. It's been a tough day." Well, she leans down and pats me on the shoulder, smiles at me, and says, "You've come to the right spot. We'll take care of that. What can I get you to drink?" Now, immediately, I'm relaxed. Immediately, I'm more engaged. Immediately, I feel like I've dealt with somebody who has listened to me. I mean, contrast this to what happens very often when you deal with a waitress or a waiter, or even, you're sitting in the same situation. The waitress walks up and says, "Hi, my name's Sally, and I'll be your server tonight. Can I get you something to drink?" Now, Sally has done nothing wrong. She's done exactly what she's been hired to do, but she hasn't done it in any way that's connected with me as a customer on any sort of personal level. And yet, the lady in the example I gave you, she connected with me personally. She let me know she had heard what I had to say. She responded to what I had to say. She relaxed me just by the way she did it. Being personal goes a long way toward allowing us to build that better interaction. See, what it's really all about is managing what you'll call, or what I might call, the moments of truth. Now, moments of truth is an old phrase. It came from a book by a guy named Jan Carlson, who had been the CEO at Scandinavian Airlines. And he pointed out that the changes he had made in Scandinavian Airlines when he took over to turn Scandinavian from an $8 million a year loser to a $2 million a year profit center in the space of just 1 year really had to do with convincing the people in the airline to manage the moments of truth. A moment of truth is that point where you come in contact with a customer, and the customer decides one of three things. He decides that he likes you, and as a result, probably likes the organization better than he did before the contact with you started. Or he decides that he dislikes you, and as a result, very likely dislikes the organization more than he did when the contact started. Or perhaps he is indifferent to you, and as a result, is quite likely indifferent to the organization. Well, the goal is to try to make sure that our customers like us, because it goes a long way toward allowing us to build better relationships, which allows us to build engaged customers, which leads to profit and growth. And this all comes from being engaged. Now, the organization, the dealership, has a certain responsibility here. You have to give me the things you said you were going to give me when you hired me. But I have a responsibility too. Every day, I represent myself. I represent my family. I represent the people that I'm close to. I represent the dealership. And it's up to me to take ownership of how I conduct myself so that I can be more effective in interacting with my guests so that they become more engaged and we end up with the profit and growth that we are striving for.